This program is brought to you by SAMCEDA, the San Mateo County Economic Development Association.
Why should you invest the next 20 to 30 minutes of your time in watching? Have you ever wondered about the people and purpose behind various businesses on the peninsula and Silicon Valley? Who works there? Why? What do these companies and organizations really contribute to our communities? If you are even a little bit curious, take a moment and hear their stories and why business is more than the bottom line. For 7 decades, the San Mateo County Economic Development Association, better known as SAMCEDA, has championed the business community by convening and connecting them to the communities in which they make their home. People hear about Genentech and Oracle, but do they know about Design Tech High School and Future Labs? My guess is no. So we're going to tell these stories and many more. The stories of your friends and neighbors who work there and how they contribute and collaborate through their employers with our food banks, our schools, our youth sports teams, our art and cultural groups, our veterans, and our seniors. How their companies give back and believe in more than the bottom line. On today's show, we have Rebecca Prozan, Senior Manager, Government Affairs and Public Policy, Google. Welcome to More Than the Bottom Line. I'm Rosanne Foust, and I'm your host today. With me is Rebecca Prozan, Senior Manager, Government Affairs and Public Policy with Google. Rebecca, welcome. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. Always great to be here.
Oh, it's fabulous to have you. And what I'd like to begin our show is for you to tell us a little bit about you, your background, and your journey to Google.
Thank you so much, and thank you again for having me this morning. I like to describe myself as not a well child. Some people were cheerleaders, some people were football players, and I like politics. So it's very fitting that where we're sitting, because it's the Ed Bachoco Auditorium, and I actually worked on Ed Bachoco's campaign as a high school student. Wow. I went to San Mateo High.
So you're a native of San Mateo County.
I'm a daughter of San Mateo County, absolutely. I went to UC Santa Cruz, that's the farthest I got away, and moved to San Francisco right afterwards. Eventually landing a job with Willie Brown for mayor in 1995. Did 2 tours of duty at City Hall, once as his special assistant and another working for Supervisor Bevan Dufty. Burned out a bit, decided to go, and when you burn out, what do? You go to law school. I went to Golden Gate University and ended up managing Senator Kamala Harris's first campaign while I was in law school. Went to the district attorney's office after I passed the bar, and was there for a total of 10 years, 8 years as a rank and file prosecutor, and then another 2 years doing public policy work. At that time, it was the early 2010s, and tech had just started to really ramp up its presence in the Bay Area. We obviously had gone through one tech boom in the 90s, and then the next one was sort of on its trajectory up. And I saw a need for somebody who had political roots, community roots, neighborhood roots, and business roots. And so I knocked on the door of Google and got lucky enough to be their first San Francisco liaison to Google, to the city from Google.
What a great story. I mean, tech really needs people like you. People that understand what I call the ecosystem of the intersection between government and business. And can you tell us about your journey at Google and some of the great things that Google does to effectuate the name of the show, More Than the Bottom Line?
Thank you. Great question. Giving back is part of Google's DNA. So whether that is, one of the programs we have at Google are 20% projects. So you were supposed to be spending 20% on something that you love doing. So for engineers, that is something like Gmail. Gmail was actually never part of our ecosystem of products, and Gmail actually became that ecosystem, is probably one of our most popular products. Right. That, of course, can extend to varying different people who work at Google, For me, I was doing tenant defense in the first couple of years because I missed practicing law, and I was able to do that and do my day job. For others, it means volunteering in the schools, helping to coach Little League, volunteering on nonprofits. All those kinds of things are part of what we do, and it makes us who we are.
I think it's so important for folks to understand that Google is so much more than a tech company. And you work with so many folks at the firm, outside of the firm, and maybe tell us some stories about specific examples. There's Grow with Google, and there was a very large announcement, which I'd like to get to later in our segment, about Google and housing. But tell me some of your early wins, because you've been a part of Google now almost 10 years.
Actually, it's only 5.
5. Oh, okay. I doubled it.
5 in August, but it feels like 10. I would say one of the first initiatives that we launched was really trying to work on transportation. I came in right after the shuttle protests in San Francisco, and so I was there to quiet the waters. And we knew at that time that Highway 101 was extremely congested, and that we needed to work together with government, with our other business partners, to figure out how we could make an effort to do something more in that space. And that has eventually evolved into creating the carpool lane, or I'm old school, I call it the carpool lane, but we now call it a managed lane, which is now under construction to extend the carpool lane from 380 to Whipple Avenue along the 101, which will, it's not just for Google, it's for the entire region, because it's actually one of the final segments of the entire area that needs that carpool lane. Transportation is just one of those. I think, just talking about your earlier question, Google Serve, we're in June. That is our annual month where thousands of Googlers are volunteering at their favorite nonprofit and really sort of ramping up special projects, painting schools, helping with coding, all sorts of different things. Just on Friday, we were with Sam Liccardo at one of the nonprofits in San Jose with our general counsel, Kent Walker, to amplify job training efforts at Goodwill. Last week, we stood with Mayor Breed and her Opportunities for All program in San Francisco, where she's trying to expand high school students' accessibility to the jobs of the future. And so we did a training of I Am Remarkable to 20 students from one of her favorite programs to really try to show students that of the world of opportunities that are out there for them, whatever path they choose. We'll be at Kenyatta College later this week with Mayor Rico Medina to do, again, more with community college students, because there's so many ways for us to be involved in the community. And we really, you know, June is one of those key months for us where we ramp that up.
And I think it's so wonderful. I mean, the mayor of San Bruno, Rico Medina, who you mentioned, Kenyatta College in Redwood City. You have a large campus in Redwood City that you have, that you are in the process of building out or refashioning the buildings at Pacific Shores Center. I mean, you are out there in the schools, you are touching lives, you are connecting with youth. You yourself have been out there working with students. Can you share maybe a story about a particular student who might have asked you a question or something that just touched you in kind of the serving capacity?
It's hard for me to find one moment. There's so many. I mean, I think of when I spoke at Leadership Redwood City and hearing the varying opinions of people who just had no idea what we do and people who were much better versed in what we do, and just seeing the response of people when we explain what we're doing on transportation, what we're doing on housing, and what we're doing with nonprofits. There's really such a range. And there really is a magic to Google that is unmatched. People just light up because it is, there is something called the toothbrush test. So we want people to be able to think about using us twice a day and think about using one of our products twice a day, and we call that the toothbrush test. And so that you can see that when you're talking to people, that they are using us, they're using us a lot because of all the ways that we can help with search, with our products, with our nonprofit work, with all the varying ways that we intersect.
Did you think when you joined Google 5 years ago that your path would be so varied? I mean, it's no one day for you is the same, ever. So did you expect that when you joined?
I didn't. I honestly thought that because San Francisco was what I know, that I would be in San Francisco and happy doing that work for forever. When they asked me to take on differing cities, we're active in at least 10 cities across the state. I actually quite enjoy getting to know the different key stakeholders, the different elected officials, all the different pathways for us to engage and partner in such a way in varying cities from Los Angeles to San Diego to San Bruno. I mean, there's just so many.
Well, and I think that the variety of activities, the depth and breadth of Google with the number of employees that you have worldwide, that you have in the Bay Area, just there's so many opportunities to touch so many different lives. What I want to talk about with you after the break is two things. One, you're a mentor to a number of people. You've actually, whether you know it or not, you've been a mentor of mine. I've seen how you interact between government and business, and I want to thank you for everything you've done regarding transportation. Because honestly, from a SAMCEDA perspective, we love companies like Google and your commitment to the issues that really affect all of us, which is transportation. So when we come back, if we could talk a little bit about mentoring and then also the big Google housing announcement.
Great.
We'll be right back to More Than the Bottom Line. Welcome to More Than the Bottom Line. I'm Rosanne Foust, your host today, and with me is Rebecca Prozan, Senior Manager, Government Affairs and Public Policy with Google. Rebecca, thanks for being with us here today. Thanks for joining us for the second part of our segment. Before the break, we were talking about mentorship and your career trajectory. And then also, there's a very large announcement that Google made last week regarding housing, one of the critical issues in our Bay Area right now. Actually, throughout the United States, housing is a challenge, but here even more so. So let's start with mentorship and tell us some thoughts about how you mentor people, what arises in your discussions with young men and women coming up in the ranks at Google, what you can tell them, what you can tell people from other companies. I'd love to hear some advice.
I think people are, with the new way that we all are, both with technology and without technology, people are really searching for their heart in what they do every day. And mentorship is so important to that, because those of us that have been through some hurdles, had some setbacks, can really explain to people how those hurdles and setbacks may have stopped us for a bit, but how we move forward. And for me, mentoring is so important because however I can share those trials and tribulations with either people that are my age or people that are older than me or younger than me to like help them get to those places, I find will make everybody happier and honestly a happier world.
And I think sometimes getting stuck in our career trajectory or in a particular job or even in elected office, I think people knowing that they can get through it and it's okay. I mean, failure is not fatal. I think that's one of the big sayings out there.
No doubt about it. And somebody gave me a little plaque that sits on my desk and it says, "What would you do if you could not fail?" And I've had that on my desk for more years than I'd ever like to say. But I continue to look at that to remind myself, to challenge myself, to challenge others to get to their next levels, whatever those levels are, and to remind myself and I remind others that, again, setbacks are setbacks. They don't set you back all the way. It just means you just have to try harder the next time.
And I think that is such great advice for a society which you get a plaque for everything. You get a trophy for everything. And I'm not one of those individuals that feel that that's a great idea. And I think it's okay to have the setbacks. I think as a company, Google has had challenges over the years, and each time has come out of it stronger. And I think the announcement last week shows Google's commitment to actually our future. And can you tell us about Google's housing announcement from last week? I'm so excited about it because as soon as I saw it, I was like, okay, this is a big deal.
We did. So coming off the heels of a couple of economic announcements in other states, so we launched offices in Michigan, we launched another data center in, I believe it was Oklahoma. We realized we really needed to launch a commitment to the Bay Area because the Bay Area is our home. You know, we were started in a garage in Palo Alto, and we really wanted to show the Bay Area that we are here, we are committed, and we understand that there's a housing crisis that is affecting everyone. So it's a $1 billion commitment to housing.
Can you repeat that?
It's a $1 billion commitment to housing.
$1 billion commitment.
Plus, but I'll get to the plus in a second.
Okay, great.
$750 million in land value. So that land value basically is another step in a very long journey that we have had as housing advocates in Mountain View. As you know, we pushed Mountain View to yes, or helped push Mountain View to yes, to 10,000 units of housing in the North Bayshore area, which is where our offices are, east of the 101. And we will be tearing down offices and building up with housing units, small businesses and offices, real complete neighborhoods is how we've been explaining it to people. We are pursuing that same office park rezoning effort in Sunnyvale, and we've obviously made a tremendous investment in San Jose, and we hope that housing is a part, or if we have anything to say about it, it will be a part of our expansion in San Jose. And so we estimate that that $750 million is the land value, and that eventually that $750 million will translate into the building of 15,000 units on those lands.
15,000 units.
15,000 units.
New housing.
Of new housing.
That,
for all income levels.
Which, to me, and Rebecca, you've been involved with San Mateo County's efforts with Home for All. Home for All is a big passion of SAMCEDA. It's a big passion of our public and private sector. And when you're talking 15,000 new units of housing at all income levels, that changes the dialogue. It raises the bar. It encourages other companies to come to the table. And I think that there have been just a little bit of kind of negative comments. Well, it's not real cash, but land is real cash in my mind. And land is the hardest thing in this area to aggregate. So hats off to Google.
You.
How did this get discussed internally? Can you give us a sense of, this took some time.
First, can I finish to the $1 billion? Because
yes.
I've only gotten to 750.
You only got to 750 million. I'm like, woo, there's more.
So we also have launched a $250 million investment fund. We hope that will catalyze 5,000 units of housing because we're going to be doing everything from pre-development all the way up to tax credit investments. So we're going to be everything from A to Z. And we're really hoping that encourages others to step up with us, or I should say step along with us, not, it's a better way of saying it.
Yes, walk side by side.
Walk side by side. And then on top of that, we understand that homelessness is a key issue for the Bay. We have invested $18 million in grants through Google.org over the last few years to really help with that issue. And we doubled down on that, and we're going to be doing $50 million over the next 10 years to help with the homelessness efforts, again, throughout the Bay Area.
Another crisis in our area, the homelessness. And I mean, you just said Google, 18 million past, 50 million going forward.
Correct.
There are so many levels of homelessness, and I think it's from the mental health to supportive housing to stable housing, so it's all of that. So that 50 million through Google's foundation, which
Correct.
is google.org. That is just, so tell us how this all came about internally, because this didn't happen overnight.
It certainly did not happen overnight. It really was a cross-functional team effort. Our real estate division, our development, what we call DevCo, our development division, which is responsible for doing the ground-up developments mostly in the South Bay, our treasury, our communications, our policy team, Google.org. It really was a team effort to really roll up our sleeves and put something together that we were all going to be proud of. And to
move the needle.
And to move the needle.
I mean, you must have felt good last week.
It was a good week.
How did your colleagues at work feel? Were people...
I think the employees feel it too. I mean, it's no secret that we're at a crisis mode, and that everyone is feeling it, no matter where you live, and you're seeing it in terms of the homelessness issues, no matter where you live, and people really wanted to have Google do something meaningful in this space. And I have always said that we wanted to be thoughtful and intentional about how we engage, and I think that the pieces to this announcement really sort of gel together, and that it really did move the needle in the way that it should have.
Well, I want to thank you on just behalf of all of us who are working on the housing issue, the homelessness issue, the stability issue. And what I'd like to do is pivot and talk a little bit about Grow with Google, which is another initiative that we've worked with you on. So tell us a little bit about Grow with Google.
Grow with Google it's actually a national effort to bring technology and the magic of technology in terms of how it can amplify small business and how it can help people teach themselves about tech nationally. And so we've done a ton of events nationally to launch this effort. But we used Grow with Google in Redwood City specifically because there are significant small business teams in Redwood City, and the leadership of the Redwood City office really wanted to have Grow with Google be our launch announcement. So we had small businesses, and thank you, SAMCEDA, for all you did to help us fill the room. Small businesses from Redwood City and around Redwood City to come to Google, hear directly from our experts on how they can use online tools, online advertising, online search mechanisms, everything about amplifying one's efforts online so that everyone succeeds with technology.
And we had a fantastic day at your facility in Redwood City. 200 small businesses were present, and your teams were wonderful, teaching them the skills that could take them into the 21st century. And I just think that that type of commitment to the local system is so important. Rebecca, I'd love for you to share just a closing comment about Google, about you, about more than the bottom line.
Redwood City and Grow with Google is just one way that we have really done more. We've worked with first responders in San Bruno. We've opened up a community space in San Francisco, which has hosted thousands of events over the last year since we launched. We are working a lot on the homelessness effort in Mountain View and doing more for job opportunities in Sunnyvale. We are very interested in making sure that people see us as more than the bottom line, and people see that Google is here to stay, and that we're committed to the community. So thank you for giving us this opportunity.
Rebecca Prozan, Senior Manager, Government Affairs and Public Policy with Google. I want to thank you for being a part of More Than the Bottom Line. I want to thank our viewers for taking the time to learn about these companies, institutions, and agencies that support More Than the Bottom Line here in San Mateo County. I'm Rosanne Foust. I'm your host. More Than the Bottom Line. Thank you.
This program is brought to you by SAMCEDA, the San Mateo County Economic Development Association.